Batman is faced off against some of the most evil villains in comic book history, but the infected villagers of Resident Evil 4 are a threat he wouldn't be able to overcome. Resident Evil 4 isn't about mindless zombies, it's about living villagers infected by Las Plagas, people who still think and act with purpose, but under a parasite's control. As a result, Batman's strict no-kill code applies, and will quickly become a huge liability. Armed with peak human skill and an arsenal built for control, not execution, could he really endure waves of intelligent attackers without crossing his moral line? To find out, we'll trace his odds encounter by encounter, in the same order Leon Kennedy lived through the nightmare. And the very first test comes fast: the village ambush. The village hits like a nightmare that doesn't give you time to think. The second you step in through the gates, you're surrounded. Rusted tools in trembling hands, eyes glassy but intent. The air is thick with smoke and the sound of boots scraping gravel. It's not a coordinated strike, it's a swarm. In Resident Evil 4, this is where Leon Kennedy's world collapses into chaos for the first time. It's the perfect storm. Too many enemies, too little ammunition, and nowhere to run. For Leon, survival here means using firepower to buy breathing room. He barricades doors, leaps from windows, and fires until the crowd thins. Every shot is a calculation. Manage recoil, reload time, and distance. It's brutal, but it's simple. Eliminate the threat. For Batman, things are different. Against a swarm of villagers armed with axes and pitchforks, the question isn't just whether he can fight, it's whether he can do it his way, non-lethally, without the Batmobile or firearms to thin the herd. The ambush is chaos in its purest sense. Dozens of infected villagers converging, refusing to relent, with only the toll of the church bell marking the end. Leon's solution relies on firepower, shotguns, pistols, barricades, but that's not an option for Batman. No grenades, no headshots, no knives through hearts. What he carries are tools built to incapacitate. High-velocity batarangs weighted for blunt impacts, taser-tipped variants tuned to deliver non-lethal shocks, smoke pellets to blind crowds, and flash disruptions that drop attackers to their knees for precious seconds. Grappling hooks let him reposition to rooftops, and his explosive gel, if used carefully, could collapse weak structures without massacring anyone outright. These gadgets buy space, but space vanishes fast against 30 enemies who don't scatter or hesitate. His martial expertise lends answers for every strike, whether it's redirecting a swing from a farmer's axe or dropping a knee into a lunge before a pitchfork lands. But combat here doesn't hinge on skill, it hinges on attrition. The Ganados aren't shaken by intimidation or fear. They don't respond to shadows or psychological tactics that freeze Gotham street gangs. Knock them out and they'll often climb back to their feet, driven not by willpower, but by parasites overriding their survival instincts. Every takedown is temporary, and numbers matter. That forces Batman to think about the battlefield itself as his greatest ally. The village layout is built for environmental tactics, and Batman excels at that. Ladders can be torn down to isolate rooftops, doors can be blocked with overturned furniture, oil lamps can be used as controlled hazards. He could funnel attackers into bottlenecks where smoke coverage maximizes his advantages. Even the use of rooftops allow him to rain down batarangs or time grapples into the smoke for sudden repositioning. Tactically, this plays to his strength in crowd management, but it comes at an exhausting price. Endurance becomes the most brutal factor. An elite fighter without Batman's conditioning might last 20 minutes under relentless pressure before fatigue slows reactions. But Batman's body is conditioned through decades of strength drills, anaerobic sprints, and gymnastic strain. Comic lore often depicts him as capable of fighting for hours against multiple opponents before showing signs of exhaustion. In pure physiological terms, his lactic acid threshold and cardiovascular endurance are unnaturally high for a human. But even with that, facing a flood of attackers while refusing to kill ensures he expends 3 times the effort Leon would in the same fight. Every dodge, throw, and calculated strike stacks fatigue on top of fatigue. His own code makes this ambush harder. So does he make it through? Yes, but just barely. He doesn't eliminate the wave with firepower. He weathers it with smoke, gadgets, timing, and physical resilience. He uses the environment tirelessly, repurposes his tools for stalling over killing, and endures until the saving bell tolls. But the strain of this trial underlines a harsher truth. Surviving one mob is possible. Surviving a world of monsters built to absorb punishment is another matter entirely. Survival odds after the village ambush, 70%. He makes it, but the toll is high. Exhaustion is already setting in. Once the setting shifts into Salazar's spiraling castle, the entire game changes pace. Long corridors, shifting walls, and mechanical death traps turn survival into something closer to chess. Every move has risks. Every mistake exacts a brutal toll. For Leon, this section is a draining gauntlet of resource management and combat with little room to breathe. For Batman, though, the castle doesn't just threaten him, it gives him tools. Traps meant to destroy become opportunities for manipulation, and the architecture itself transforms into a tactical resource. Batman's expertise in escapology and engineering is central here. He can escape a complex straitjacket in under a minute, and he's a polymath with deep knowledge of electrical engineering and mechanics. Where Leon is forced to wait for swinging blades to subdue or to sprint across pressure plates before arrows launch, Batman would instead analyze each trap like a puzzle set in front of him. A weighted plate becomes a system to disable or reprogram. A crossbow turret hidden in the wall could be rewired so it fires on its own cultist allies. While others see the castle as claustrophobic and oppressive, Batman sees intricate machinery waiting to be repurposed. The castle's puzzles, often simple emblem switches and intricate door locks for Leon, become another resource for Batman. A rotating wall that opens into a hidden hall isn't just a passage. It's a chance to funnel enemies into traps or seal them off entirely. Rooms designed to stall him actually give him more options to stall his attackers. His knack for preparation in restricted environments means he could prep ambushes as naturally as Leon fires bullets. But the most formidable obstacle in these halls isn't a trap or a puzzle, it's Verdugo. Salazar's cloaked bodyguard stalks the castle with insect-like limbs and an armored plate hide resistant to conventional weapons. It doesn't lumber like most monsters. It surges forward fast, closing distance before you can react, forcing the encounter into predator versus prey levels of tension. Leon's solution is straightforward. Kite Verdugo around and use the liquid nitrogen canisters found in the environment to freeze it temporarily, then follow up with heavy firepower. For Batman, those windows have to be exploited differently. Here, his wide-ranging knowledge of chemistry and physics becomes critical. Batman wouldn't just break the canisters haphazardly. He would calculate precisely how long the cryogenic effect would last, the optimal point for maximum spread, and how to chain multiple freezes together for time. Freezing gas isn't a weapon for him. It's a method of repositioning and controlling space. While Verdugo breaks free eventually, timing those moments lets Batman keep distance and redirect the pursuit. His mastery of escapology applies as much here as anywhere. This isn't a conventional fight. It's surviving a moving death trap, using skill and speed to stay alive one step ahead. Without firearms, Batman would lean entirely on environment. The goal isn't to win a duel by damage, it's to escape by misdirection, forcing Verdugo into vulnerabilities carved from the castle itself. Each encounter becomes a matter of patience, motion, and perfect timing under life or death pressure. Survival odds after the Castle and Verdugo, 55%. Batman bends the environment to his will, but Verdugo nearly corners him and makes survival tough for our vigilante. The lack of firepower and the no-kill code leaves him running on fumes when trying to defeat this abomination. When it comes to Resident Evil 4's most infamous monster, the Regenerador, Batman finds his sharpest challenge yet. This biological nightmare was designed to shrug off damage that would stop anything else in the game. Every lost limb grows back. Every strike, no matter how precise, seems wasted unless you know the secret buried beneath its skin. Its labored breathing, the slow shuffle forward, and the fact that it can reconstitute itself in seconds make it one of the most unnerving encounters in the series. For Batman, who lives by strategy, gadgets, and control, this opponent directly undermines his strengths. The Regenerador and its even deadlier cousin, the Iron Maiden, are enemies where standard combat completely fails. In Resident Evil 4, the only reliable solution is using an infrared scope to reveal and destroy the plaga parasites hidden inside the body. But Batman doesn't carry assault rifles, nor would he be willing to gun down something that still holds the shape of a human being. That forces him into a corner. He has to find a non-lethal precision method to neutralize the threat. Fortunately, this is where his intellect begins to matter as much as his combat skill. Batman's mind has long been categorized as genius level, with an estimated IQ over 200. Across comics and games, he has mastered dozens of sciences: biology, chemistry, engineering, mathematics, computer science, and physics, while also designing technology that rivals military-grade innovations. With that background, adapting his detective vision into a portable scanning system that can mimic the function of an infrared scope is entirely plausible. He could detect the parasites with the same kind of internal overlay Leon relies on, but instead of gunfire, he would use surgical-level tools of his own making. Over his career, Batman has built electrical disruptors for precision sabotage, high-frequency sonic devices for disorienting enemies, and taser-based weapons designed to incapacitate without killing. Imagine these modified into micro-munitions, meant not to blast apart flesh, but to rupture or overload the specific tissues housing parasites. His skill as both a weapons engineer and master hacker means he can reconfigure his arsenal on the fly, sharpening his technology into a surgical strike system rather than brute ordnance. It's not about power, it's about accuracy. The critical issue, though, is time. In Gotham, Batman usually has to prep before a fight. He analyzes crime scenes for hours, runs simulations in the Batcave, and builds custom countermeasures to match his enemies. Against the Regenerador, there's no forewarning and no planning window. The monster gives him no pause, forcing him to improvise instantly while under attack. Every slash of its claws presses his enhanced reflexes to react faster than thought, and every dodge or counter push tests the upper limits of his enhanced durability. Even if he manages to scan for parasite signatures, targeting them while avoiding those relentless grabs drains his stamina at an alarming rate. The claustrophobic laboratory setting only stacks the odds higher. No shadows to vanish into, no rooftops to grapple toward, just fluorescent corridors with steel doors and nowhere to hide. Villains in Gotham, from Clayface to Mr. Freeze, have taught Batman how to handle regeneration and specialized attacks, but those battles often leave him with space to experiment. Here it's compressed chaos, a shifting biological puzzle that advances step by step until you solve it or fall. Would he eventually neutralize the Regenerador? Yes, but with a heavy cost. His genius-level analysis paired with real-time use of infrared scanning gear and surgical disruptors could dismantle the parasite network inside the creature without directly killing the host. His intellect makes survival possible, but his body pays a steep price for the effort, burning through energy reserves faster than almost any Gotham encounter. Survival odds after the Regenerador, 40%. He survives by brilliance, not brawn. Physically, he's nearly broken. When Sadler enters the stage, the problem evolves from surviving an ambush to containing a biological apocalypse. The Las Plagas infection isn't a disease. It's a network, hijacking human nervous systems to serve a single will. Every villager, every soldier becomes a node in Sadler's hive. Leon Kennedy answers that with gunfire and grit, fighting his way through the cult to survive the head. Batman, though, would do the opposite. He wouldn't chase Sadler across the island. He'd dig in. His mind would shift from hunter to scientist, from pursuit to prevention. Louise Serra's lab becomes ground zero for his counteroffensive. What was once a crude workshop for temporary serums would, under Batman's hands, turn into a functioning field lab. Instead of running from the infection, he'd fortify the perimeter, seal entry points, and turn every chemical, generator, and scrap of machinery into tools for biological warfare. Non-lethal, but precise. His first step wouldn't be a fight. It would be a diagnosis. He'd map the parasite's neural patterns, dissect its control nodes, and begin searching for ways to block transmission between host and master. This strategy fits Batman's psychology as much as his science. His refusal to kill isn't just an ethical line, it's a tactical framework. To him, killing ends the data. Letting a subject live means learning how it works. And in a crisis like this, Knowledge is ammunition. Where Leon sees enemies to eliminate, Batman sees a pathogen to interrupt. His objective isn't Sadler's death, it's the collapse of Sadler's control. The prep time argument gains its truest form here. Even without his lab, or Alfred's guidance, Batman's adaptability turns scraps into systems. He could re-engineer Louise's equipment to generate high-frequency pulses that scramble parasite communication, or synthesize a neurochemical suppressant from scavenged materials to slow host aggression. His cowl scanners could be recalibrated to detect parasite resonance inside the human body. Within hours, he'd shift from survivor to containment specialist, repurposing the environment rather than escaping it. His experience with mind control isn't theoretical. From poison ivy spores to Mad Hatter's neural implants, he spent years countering forms of biological and technological domination. The principle remains the same: break the signal chain. In this case, that means isolating infected clusters, cutting Sadler's line of command, and maintaining live test samples to analyze mutation rates. Every experiment would bring him closer to a biological choke point, a way to jam the parasite's commands at their source. Ultimately, Batman's campaign wouldn't be about victory in combat, but about outlasting infection. By stabilizing Louise's lab, he transforms the narrative from escape to intervention, from heroism through violence to survival through intellect. So if Sadler comes for him, Batman doesn't meet him on the battlefield. He forces the battlefield to adapt to him. His fight is no longer personal, it's surgical. And though the odds of surviving the ordeal drop with every passing hour, the result of his stand could mean something Leon never had time to attempt: the beginning of a cure. Survival odds after Sadler? 25%. His intellect gives him a chance, but fatigue and wounds make survival less than a coin toss. All told, Batman's final odds of surviving the entire night rested around 25%. 1 in 4. It's not his strength that carries him, nor his gadgets alone, but his ability to reimagine every problem as a puzzle with a solution. Yet that very philosophy, the refusal to kill, makes every fight harder than it needs to be, draining his stamina and cutting his chances lower with each passing hour. But there's still the unresolved question. If Batman's intellect is truly peerless, could he synthesize a cure from the island's limited resources, mirroring Louise Serra's ingenuity? Or does the non-lethal calculus fail against a parasite demanding eradication? Tell us your analysis below.